I'm real happy today to see everyone here and to have the speaker today, Dr. Vahid Majidi, speaking from Savannah River National Lab, my former home for many years. Dr. Majidi is the director of the Savannah River National Laboratory, and he's responsible for its management, operation, and strategic direction. He employs approximately 1,000 technical and support staff, and they conduct research and development for diverse federal agencies, providing practical, cost-effective solutions for the nation's environmental, nuclear security, energy, and manufacturing challenges. Dr. Majidi is a decorated former member of the Senior Executive Service and Senior Intelligence Service with direct reporting responsibilities to the U.S. Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, and the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He formerly served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear Matters, Assistant Director for the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Weapons of Mass Destruction Directorate, and Chief Science Advisor to the Department of Justice. He has more than 30 years' experience in the areas of chemistry, measurement science and technology, national and homeland security, science and technology policy, and nuclear non-proliferation. So would you please help me welcome Dr. Majidi.
Good morning, everybody. You know, it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here. I feel actually this is the most people from the laboratory I'm seeing in one place. So shouldn't you guys be working? I'm taking credit for the work you do, so I need more work done so I can take more credit. For the past 7 decades, the laboratory has been an integral part of the site. And for the past 20 years, 20-some years, when DuPont left the site and we had different contractors come in, the laboratory has been evolving with the site, with its mission, and most recently, the department saw fit that for an enduring mission, they need to spin the laboratory off as an independent national laboratory. And the story that I'm telling you today is basically over the past few months and the past few weeks, and then looking into the future, how is that transition is going on, what is happening with the future of the laboratory, and tell you a little bit about some of the 10-year vision that we've got in place. So if you're okay with that, I'm going to start with a quick video, and let me see if I can actually get this.
What do I do at work? Do you know?
You work a lot.
I work a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Do you know where I work?
No.
Work at SRNL. Alright. Do y'all know what SRNL stands for?
The lab. The lab.
Do you have a favorite element? Do you also have a favorite book? That one?
Where does Nana work?
I don't know.
What does she do at her work?
Work?
How many people do you think work at Savannah River National Laboratory?
2013.
Caroline, where does Nana work?
By a gas station.
And what does she do at her work?
Do computer and have a lunch break.
You make stuff and you're the boss. You're the boss. What's that? Oh yeah, you make magic cookies?
robot. Yeah, that's just a neuron.
What do you think Mommy does for work?
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Sheridan?
After tennis, a doctor, a vet.
Those are great.
Just a little bit of a fun from our future workforce. Right? So, interestingly enough, as you listen to the answers, that's some of the very same answers I get from you folks when I say, hey, what do you think the laboratory does? So, one of the key things we're trying to do over the next few years is to make sure we have the laboratory more out front with the community so you understand exactly what we do. We do a lot of science and technology that is designed to help the U.S. government, it helps the U.S. citizens, it helps the community, and hopefully we can show more of that as we go along. So a few things that I should kind of mention. Obviously, as you drive south of Aiken, you see the site and it's massive in its footprint. So the main area that we live at the laboratory is in the A area, so the closest part to the town. And right next to the A area, there is a county-owned land that they have a few buildings. These are Aiken County buildings. We occupy those buildings. They are great landlords, and we do a lot of our research and development in those buildings as well. The fantastic thing about the Aiken County buildings are that you can work in those buildings without necessarily having clearances. So a lot of the interns that come to work to the laboratory, a lot of the interactions we do with academia is actually born in those two buildings. We also have a brand new facility that we just opened up at Georgia Cybersecurity Center right across the river. We have a small footprint, and we're focused on Internet of Things, cybersecurity. These are all the connected systems to the industrial control systems or things that control processes. Overall, our footprint is roughly about 70% of our employees live in South Carolina, and about 30% live in Georgia. So one of the things that I want to keep communicating is that we are a two-state employer. Actually, the entire site is a two-state employer, right? We just happen to be a cross-section of what the site reflects. And that is, we've got people that live in Georgia and commute here every day. We got people who live in South Carolina and commute here every day. And we've got to take advantage of that two-state profile. And as we talk to the headquarters, just keep reiterating that we're impacting two states. Our economic impact at the laboratory is a fraction of what the site's economic impact is. Nonetheless, it's about $300 million that we spend in Georgia and South Carolina, and we're hoping that number grows. We have a significant partnership with Fort Gordon, and as the Fort Gordon grows, our programs also grows because we have a lot of work that we do with the Department of Defense in general. And some of those programs are focused with our partners at Fort Gordon. Some of them are focused with the Department of Defense nationwide. And the last item that I have here is that BSRA, this is a little bit new to us because we've always worked under the umbrella of a bigger company. So I can tell you from my interactions when we just left Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. Savannah River Nuclear Solutions as a company is a generous company working with the community. And that is certainly something that we learned. And BSRA being a Battelle-led not-for-profit, the intention is that to continue with those community engagements at different levels. The difference now is that we used to wear a shirt that said Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. We just have to change a couple of letters on our shirts and just says Savannah River National Laboratory. So nonetheless, the engagement with the community is going to continue on. So to tell you a little bit about transition, the chart behind me is a little bit of a dashboard telling you that all the stuff we did during the transition and all the stuff that we have to make sure we're in place. Department of Energy puts contracts out for bid all the time. And what happens in totality, a new contractor comes in and takes over the old contract, takes over all the old systems, and all is good. Those transitions are typically, relatively short, 60 days to 90 days, depending on the size of the contract. It ends up that separation of Savannah River National Laboratory from a bigger business unit, like Savannah River Nuclear Solution, is atrivial. This has only happened 3 other times in the Department of Energy's history, right? So this has happened when Oak Ridge National Laboratory was spun off, when Pacific Northwest National Laboratory was spun off, and the Idaho National Laboratory was spun off. So 3 times in the past this has only happened, and none of them were just last year, right? They have happened over the past 60 years. So not too frequently either. So this particular event that we had to separate the laboratory from Savannah River Nuclear Solutions is actually traumatic, both for the laboratory, for the site, for Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, and the people who were doing the transitions. Because often, when you get a transition team coming in here, they're really used to standard transition. And when they come and take a look at the magnitude of things we need to do, it's really daunting. Nonetheless, the transition took place. Are we done with everything? And the answer is no. One of the fantastic things about this transition is that we have an outstanding partner in Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, because we still rely on Savannah River Nuclear Solutions for a lot of our fundamental functional activities that we need at the lab. Some business functions, some HR functions, and IT functions, and the list goes on and on. And the idea is that over the next few years, as we mature the laboratory and stand as a functional business entity, then we can slowly move away from some of those dependencies on Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. And again, the great thing is we come from Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. These are family members to us, so it's just like somebody's graduating and finally moving out of the basement. So we moved out of the basement. We're now still on our dad's pocket, right? Every once in a while, I still have to call Stuart and say, hey, we need help here or there. But nonetheless, we're working toward that ultimate independence. Anybody who has a college student, be ready for it. Anybody who has college students finishing and moving on their own, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I've got 2 kids that are fully self-reliant and working, but neither is completely revenue neutral. So when we get to the revenue neutral state, that we know we're doing well. So what are some of the differences than what we had before? Well, number one, I just want to show the org chart. I think that's the DOE regulations, that every time you give a talk to public, you're forced to show an org chart. So this is my mandatory, I think I hit a DOE order with this. But realistically, what I want to point out is that boxes that have red outline, and those boxes are functions that did not exist in the laboratory. They were all executed by Savannah River Nuclear Solution, our parent company. So as we spin off, we need to create those functionalities within the lab. And obviously, you just can't turn a switch on and be dependent and independent overnight. Just think of the college student again. We have to work gradually to establish those red boxes to make sure that they're self-sufficient. They need to meet DOE's requirements. And then, once everything is said, we can really be that self-reliant national laboratory that we need to be. The model that we have adopted from the Battelle family is what's called the Simultaneous Excellence. And Battelle, from us, it demands 3 specific things. Excellence in science and technology. They have had a vast experience running national laboratories. We're not the first national laboratories that they ran. We're not the first national laboratories they extracted from a bigger business units. And in all cases, Battelle has been really a pioneer in science and technology. And the goal is to actually, while we have been instrumental in implementing a lot of high-end science and technology at the site, is to actually continue with that model and become independent in discovery science as well. Excellence in laboratory operations, that's all aspects of operation, nuclear, non-nuclear, as well as the business operations. They have a community practice that now we have to join and continuously implement the lessons learned from all the other Battelle National Laboratories across the complex. So that helps us run a more efficient laboratory. More importantly for you is that excellence in community service. And this is something, again, we've relied on our parent company in the past, so we're a neophyte in this area. And with a lot of help from Battelle, we are going to become more and more outwardly involved in the community. Sharon Morrow, my deputy, is sitting right at that table. She owns this pillar, and a lot of the engagement, I know we're getting anxious and excited people reaching to us and saying, hey, let's do this, let's do that. We really are still working to get our feet under us, and as soon as we do that, hopefully around October timeframe, you'll see us more out there. You know, we'll do things in the community. You know, my passion is a lot of STEM education and working with young kids, and you'll see that theme throughout this talk. So you'll see us out there, and this is just, again, a placeholder for the future. So what is the new SRNL vision and approach? Well, we're focusing really on 3 mission-oriented visions, and that is, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can read the screen here. I did memorize all of these, but you know, the words change every day. So, first and foremost, we are an environmental management laboratory. Our sponsor is EM Program Office, and as a consequence, EM, Environmental Management, and Legacy Management are our key sponsors at the headquarters. So we are ultimately responsible in providing risk-informed approaches and achieve sustainable regulatory end state. What does that mean? You know, there's a lot of sites that need EM and LM attention. And these cleanup activities, these long-term legacy management and observation activities cost a lot of money. So how can we help the headquarters to cut the cycle of treatment shorter and reduce the cost? At the end of the day, when we make things faster and shorter in time duration, that saves money for the federal government. And that directly impacts everybody's pocket here, because we're all taxpayers. So anytime you can save money and make things faster, you're doing the right thing. The second pillar is a national security. We really got two activity sets on that are critical to the department. Number one is a weapons production. So we are working with the tritium facility at the site and with the plutonium pit production facility at the site. So those are our 2 key drivers in helping the national security. And then the other pillar is non-proliferation, making sure that our country is safe from proliferation of nuclear material and nuclear knowledge around the world. So we do a lot of work with federal government to reduce the threat of nuclear proliferation. So that by itself involves not only the Department of Energy and NSA, also it involves a lot of other government agencies, because when you work on a global landscape, you have to get multi-government agencies involved in that. The third pillar is really the science, engineering, and energy. We are the Department of Energy. We are obligated by law to have some element that has to do with energy. What we're doing in that arena is really advanced energy systems. For our decades of work at the site, the one thing that this laboratory has, second to none, is hydrogen science. Well, in the past, we didn't used to call it hydrogen science. We always called it tritium. Tritium is simply an isotope of hydrogen. And all of the research we've done in tritium is directly applicable to the hydrogen work we do. So we do a lot of hydrogen storage and hydrogen conversion to energy that really you can't find anywhere else in the country. Obviously, pushing the science and engineering forefront, those are key for us as well. And the last element of our vision is the workforce development. One of the key elements of the BSRA is that the Savannah River Alliance of BSRA is really 5 regional leading universities along with 2 small subcontractors. And I'll tell you what those mean to us. So this is an eye chart, and it's not meant for you guys to actually read it. It's just meant for me as a talking point. Our activities, we always lay them out in a strategy map. This is the Kaplan-based strategy map. On the top layer, the chevrons describe our customers. The point that I want to make is that the blue boxes are strategic goals extracted from our activities over the next 5 years or so. That's our 5-year vision. What are this that we're going to do for the department? And those strategic goals are where we're bringing all of our university partners to help us achieving some of those goals. The 5 universities that are engaged are, I'm going to go from west coming to east, is Georgia Tech, Georgia, Clemson, University of South Carolina, and South Carolina State Universities. The important is we are the first DOE site and the national laboratory that has an HBCU as one of the partners running the laboratory. So that hasn't happened anywhere else. We are the first. And this is somewhat fortuitous because when Secretary of Energy just came on board, one of her drivers was getting HBCUs involved in running the national laboratories, and this was already in the works. So that's an immediate thing that we were able to meet Secretary's need for it. The contractors that we're working with, Longer Necker and Associate and TechSource, are there to help us bring in those fundamental elements that we need for business and functional activities within the lab up to par, so we're ready to, again, really stand the laboratory on its own feet. So the point being, the proposal recommended that we develop 7 core competencies for a laboratory. Today we have 4 core competencies. What they are is really irrelevant, but it's really focused on the future science and how we're going to expand the laboratory and the science space. So the first thing in everybody's mind should be something that we've all here worked for the past, certainly beyond my tenure, for 5, 6, 7 years. How many years is that?
I think 6 or 7.
6 or
sure.
7, and that's Advanced Manufacturing Collaborative. The Congress ultimately funded this last year. It was championed by the department. Tony is actually is the lead for that project for the department. A architect has already been selected, and this building is going to be built on University of South Carolina Aiken's campus. So Dan is kind enough to give us some room to put this brand new building, and that's going to be the confluence of the new laboratory's interactions with the university and industrial partner. So what I've shown on the left-hand side, notionally, the bottom part shows the building. And I don't want to be pejorative, but manufacturing is an activity, and there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to go in that building. But that's not the only thing we do at the National Laboratory. So what are some of the key things that put the National Laboratory flavor on this? Well, that blue layer that you see on top of the AMC building, that's just the notional activity sets, that every equipment in AMC is going to be censored. The entire building is going to be censored, and the data that we collect from that equipment, building, and people that work for it, they're all fed into a data cloud. They're curated so that they have some pedigree, and that's actually made available to anybody, unless there is an industrial partner that doesn't want their data specifically included in that set through NDA and other type of agreements. But nonetheless, that data is provided to all of our academic partners, our industrial partners, I'm going to say citizen scientists. So if there's anything that you like to do with big data and large quantity of information telling you about various processes, that's going to be available to everybody. The next layer on top of that is also what I consider an important element for our national laboratory. That is, okay, you have this data, what are you going to do with it? Well, we're going to take advantage of things like simulation, modeling, artificial intelligence, machine learning, to understand those processes that are happening on a floor and how we can actually improve those processes. We can run thousands of experiments in a computer before we run one experiment on the floor. And that can actually help us provide a better manufacturing process before we manufacture items. And that top layer is that obviously everything is going to be connected through either cloud or through the computer connectivity and internet. And today, everybody should be aware that the security of those systems is always in question. So how do you implement a modern cybersecurity element that can look at the security of the connected systems? I hope that rings a bell, because I just told you that we opened a place in Georgia that looks at the security of the connected systems and preserve the supply chain security of the things that you manufacture. All of that is going to be in collaboration with US government, with Fort Gordon, with National Guards, to make sure that we have the best-in-class cybersecurity brought into things that we do day in and day out. And the one thing I want to point out is that the AMC building right here goes right on top of this baseball field, which really, from one perspective, I hope the students won't be throwing things at us as we go there, because we're taking over the baseball field. So I hope you guys are arranging some other type of activities for the students. So yes, we're independent, but we're still very much integrated in everything that the site does. And I'm just showing you a little bit of a chart. This is our interactions with Savannah River Remediation. Phil was here a few weeks ago giving a talk. Stuart is sitting back there, and they can all attest that if you look at the service level agreements that we have between Savannah River Remediations and Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, and I've got my bosses here from both MNSA and DOE, and they can attest that all the activities we do for this site is in agreement and harmony with being an integral part of the site activities. So this is just a contractual agreement, knowing that, look, with Savannah River Remediations, we've got service level agreements that we do work for them. If you look at the Savannah River Nuclear Solutions, that's a loop. They do a lot of activities to support us. We do a lot of activities to support them. Being that, yes, we're not going away anywhere. We're not carving a little segment or putting a new fence around the laboratory, because our activities are what the site activities are. So for FY22, just some notable goals. As a site, Savannah River site and Savannah River National Laboratory is the only site east of Mississippi that we have an FAA approval to fly drones beyond the line of sight. So to do that, the very first thing we got to do is that we got to establish some radar capability in a P area, so we're able to do more experiments for federal government, and actually in collaboration with industry and other government agencies. This is a place that we can also bring academics to try their new sensor development, to bring their new flying platform, because we do have a very general license from the FAA. Stewardship and operation of the laboratory, we got to install some upgrade, but most importantly, we're going to have to improve our high performance computing. I just said a key element for our success is going to be that future of machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence, as well as the big data analysis. And to do that, we need a more modern high performance capabilities. From the stewardship of the laboratories, we got to work on our university partner for collaborations. This is something that we've done in the past. We just got to do a more extensive set of activities with our university partners. How do we develop joint appointments? How do we bring graduate students here? How do we bring faculty to actually work on site with us? And the last one, we need to have a responsive business systems. National laboratories needs are different than other contractors on site. And our business systems have to be aligned to reflect the national laboratories activities. So the 5-year strategy, the center is just at the 3 vision areas that I mentioned, but outside are the 7 core capabilities that we need to expand around them. So we have to leverage the 7 core competencies to actually expand beyond our current base of science and technology. How do we bring new science in the laboratory? Leading science, technology, and engineering institution. We want to be that institution for DOE, mitigate the impact of climate change on EM, LM, that's environmental management, legacy management, and NNSA and other programs. You know, we all hear on the news every day that the climate is changing, people are responsible for it, but we got to do something about it, right? So one thing you can do is that you can reduce the CO2 emission and trying to delay it as much as possible, but also be realistic that you may not be in time to delay that. What are the key elements and key functions you're doing to mitigate the impact of climate on a long term? We want to make sure that we continue establishing new nuclear processes on site and are able to be a good custodian of them. We want to develop a strong partnership with universities and a strong community service elements. So within the next 5 years, you see us more and more out in the community. And if you ask me what the 10-year vision for us should be, we want to be having societally impactful discovery science and advanced engineering initiatives, things that you guys can see in an everyday life, right? You know, it would be great if 10 years, 15 years from now, you're using some concept, some widget, and say, yeah, that was discovered at the laboratory right down there. A leading champion for environment and planet. You know, we're already an environmental management laboratory. How do we expand that to really own the environment as a whole and be an impactful national laboratory on those activities? We want to be a cornerstone for our national security. We are already engaged with tritium and plutonium and other government agencies as we're working our non-proliferations around the globe. We want to be that go-to organizations for everything that has to do with the national security. Advocate for advanced STEM education and our future workforce. You know, we're going to be expanding the laboratory. Plutonium is going to be needing more people. This is going to be an enduring site. Even when we clean all the waste, the site is going to remain here. And we have to be that good custodian that brings that next generation of employees here with valuable work to be done. And community engagement to support our youngest citizens and enable a better future. You know, in my first video that I showed you, those are the future of the laboratory, the future of the site, the future of our community. How do we become more relevant to those kids and make sure that they have a good custodianship of the future for us? And Jim, I think I'm done. Thank you.
We have a chance for a couple questions, but first I'd like to make a comment about the sighting of the AMC. I actually love that sighting. I'm a left-handed batter, and that would be a very short right field porch for me. I might actually be able to hit my first home run if we had a field like that. So, but with that, are there any questions or comments that anyone has for Vahid?
Yeah. I've got a question. For a national lab, typically a national lab has a major international user facilities. Can you say which major user facilities potentially that SRNL could go after?
So the Office of Science National Laboratories have major user facilities, and not even every Office of Science has a major user facility. So there are 17 national laboratories in the complex. 9 of them are Office of Science, and 7 of them have major user facilities. For us, providing that unique service to the government is really what drives the laboratory and the site. And as we expand, we're trying to identify what are some of the key things that will make sense as a user facility. The very first thing is that P-test range area that I talked about beyond the line of sight flight capabilities. That is not available anywhere else. So we're hoping to be able to bring partners and actually allow them to use that. We have a range master that can arrange time, and that's going to be our entry into the user facility. Ultimately, what I really like to see on the site is that the site is fantastic in doing tritium work, and the future of energy is in fusion. How can we marry that whole concept of the tritium work we do and a fusion energy to create that next user facility? Obviously, these are very premature and not even on a drawing stage. But if you're looking at our capabilities that can be leveraged for future user facilities, we do have lots of capabilities that can be leveraged. And if you ask me on the spot what I'm going to recommend, P-range and something that has to do with the fusion, let's see what we can get off the ground.
Thank you.
Other question or comment from anyone? quiet, everybody wants to get to work. Okay, wait, oh, Mike.
I just want to verify, my understanding when we agreed to take that site over the ball field was that you were already procuring a new ball field for the. Just make sure we weren't dealing.
Yeah, we're much further.
Yeah, so this sits just outside of the softball field at US Aiken, not the baseball field, just to anybody.
Yep, that's
So
right.
it doesn't impact the softball field at all.
All right, but my distance from Starbucks is still short, right?
Correct.
All right.
Important questions, important answers, that's right. Anything else that we want to discuss? Yeah.
I will observe, coming from Lawrence, Livermore, that they took our softball fields for staging for the National Ignition Facility. It's still a parking lot. Why not?
All right, do better.
All right.
Anything else, any comments? Okay, well, we thank everybody before Vahid steps down. We usually give the ceremonial coffee mug. He spoke to us recently, so we're gonna switch it up with the CNTA and SRNS shirt on the sleeve so you can remember SRNS.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, thank you, Jim. And, you know, I want to return the favor because I was expecting another mug. But I did this shirt in good faith. And, you know, I brought you an SRNL coin to swap with your shirt. I have actually 2 CNTA mugs. And maybe this is an effect of COVID, spending a lot of time not being able to go out. The other day, I could swear I heard the 2 mugs arguing in my cabinets. So I was hoping for a 3rd mug to mediate that discussion between the 2 of them. But I guess I just have to listen to them longer.
Thank you, Vahid. Thanks again. And I think we should be able to make the slides available on our website. I think if there's any issue with the site, and we'll make sure, so we'll put those on our website.
Yeah, I checked with Amy yesterday, and she gave me the thumbs up to show these slides, so I think they're okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you.